this scale is literally just a measurement of the force of gravity on you. Like if you wanted to simply lose weight, you could go to another planet that's much smaller, that has less like gravity, and you would weigh less. It wouldn't change anything about you. It wouldn't change anything about your body. This scale is it's just one single data point.
Hey, Soul Family. Welcome to the Alive and Awake podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Kay, and I have spent the last 20 years teaching people how to work with their wounds and overcome their greatest fears so they can learn how to thrive in a world where they were only taught to conform. Each week, we will dive deep into the practical, the spiritual, and the mystical so I can teach you how to do the inner work to know yourself, trust yourself, and eventually love yourself enough to create a world where you feel fully alive, awake, and free. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode. Ready? Let's dive in. Welcome to another episode, everyone. I am so excited to have Katie Berger here, who is a nutrition coach, and she helps busy moms manage their macros so that they can get control over their weight, how they feel about themselves, ditching diets, and really tuning into their body and what feels right for them. And I think that this is a topic that all women struggle with. And I'm just happy to have you here so we can get through some of the struggles that we all have and learning how to master our mindset when it comes to what we put in our body. And just excited to have you here. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here for sure and share everything that I have learned up to this point in my life.
Yeah. So tell me about that. Like what got you on this track, or how did you get here where this became your passion?
Yeah. So like many women, especially millennial women, I find we spent most of our 20s on a diet. I mean, I can even remember in elementary school, girls talking about their weight and what they were eating for lunch. And it was just like always this obsession with what we're eating and what the scale says and things like that. And because I had that serial dieter, yo-yo, like diet mentality, when I got engaged, one of the first thoughts that I had was, I have to look good in my wedding dress. And I know that I want to like wear a form-fitting dress. And the only way that I'm going to look good in this is if like I lose some weight. And my like knee-jerk reaction was to buy these like pretty little containers and start to measure my food in these containers. And I think it wound up being like 1,200 calories. And 2 or maybe 3 days, I don't even know if I made it that far, I started having cravings for like apple pie a la mode. And I don't even like pie, but it was just like so specific, you know? And like chicken parm. And while I love chicken parm, it was just like, it just felt so overwhelming. And I wasn't sure how I was going to sustain it. And then I started following one of my favorite like recipe bloggers, and she was talking about macros. She was making these delicious recipes. So I did some more research on macros, learned a little bit about it on my own, hired a coach. It wasn't until that time that I was like finally able to lose I think it was like 6 pounds that I wanted to lose. I lost 9 inches off of my body, but I finally understood that like people aren't showing up to my wedding because of the size dress that I'm wearing. I'm beautiful from the inside out. And on my wedding day, the number of people that came up to me and said, you can feel the love in this room. And I truly feel like, of course, it came from me and my husband, but it comes from inside of you first, And I really learned that through tracking macros.
I can resonate with all of it. And, doing the work that I do, so many women place their worth on their weight, and it becomes this obsession of, I'm going to be rejected, or I'm not going to get the love that I need and deserve because I weigh this, or people are judging me because of this. But it is the true judgment of self. And I love how you really articulated that that's your essence, right? That comes from inside of you. And it doesn't matter what the scale says.
No, it doesn't at all. I am also a science teacher, so I kind of like geek out on this a little bit. And this scale is literally just a measurement of the force of gravity on you. Like, if you wanted to simply lose weight, you could go to another planet that's much smaller, that has less like gravity, and you would weigh less. That doesn't, it wouldn't change anything about you. It wouldn't change anything about your body. This scale is it's just one single data point. And one of the things that I remind people that I work with all the time is like, your weight does not dictate your worth. Your weight and your worth are not the same thing.
Yeah, but as a culture, we are taught to pair them together. And like you said, it starts so young for us, where we start to restrict our food or we start to judge what we're putting in our bodies because of what we're seeing in school. So, what is your process for helping women with this unhealthy mindset?
Yeah. I think the big key thing here is instead of going to a place of shame and judgment of yourself, instead become more curious.
Mm.
Like, approach things and question your thoughts, question the things that you're doing. So when you step on a scale in the morning, what are you saying to yourself? Are you saying, oh man, I really hope that this is down a pound? And if it's not, then what? Like, what does that mean for you? You know? And once you can kind of identify those thoughts coming up when you get curious and you understand the thoughts that you're having, just like start to poke holes
Mm.
slowly but surely, poke holes in them. And eventually, those thoughts, maybe they'll pop up every now and again, but that muscle won't be so strong because you're not using it anymore, you know? And you can kind of poke holes by saying things like, okay, if I get on the scale and the weight is up, do my children love me any less today?
Mm.
You know? Will I get fired from my job because I am a pound or two heavier today? Like, in most cases, that's not going to happen, right? No one knows. I don't know what you weigh. You don't know what I weigh. No one's going around saying, "Oh, she must weigh that." It's all in our mind, honestly. And we've been taught that from our parents and our parents' parents. And it's just like this generational thing that's passed on. But to know that you have the power to like break that and you can do it and you have the power to move forward without that judgment, that's when you can like finally be free and you can pass that on to your kids.
I think every generation is getting better than the last. Like a lot of the people that I do work with are saying, I don't want my child to ever know what goes on in my head about my weight or about how I feel in my body. Yet they were raised by parents that were constantly criticizing them of, oh, let's do this diet together, or, seeing their parents starve themselves or, do these really unhealthy things that then, of course, it places this imprint around I'm not going to be loved and acceptable if I don't have a certain body type or a certain body weight.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that a lot of ways in my 20s, I connected with my own mom
Mm.
over being on a diet. Like, we did what Weight Watchers together. How many people are in like group chats and they're like sharing each other's food and things like that? And it did take a lot for me to like kind of break that cycle. But once I did, I then was able to like help my mom out and reteach
Mm.
her that like I don't love her any less for her weight. I just want her to be happy and healthy. So by finding that peace within myself, it honestly trickled out to so many other places in my life for the
It's
better.
so true, right? Like as above, so below. And as you change your energy, as you change the way you feel about yourself, it has to have a ripple effect on those that you're connected to biologically. And so let's talk about this concept of diets. So you mentioned Weight Watchers, you mentioned these little like food containers. What is your take on them?
So Do I believe that these things can help you lose weight? Yeah, sure. Like Weight Watchers did help me at one point in time. I actually, this is crazy. I just found my food diary from, I think it was 2011. Like this goes back far.
Oh
And
my gosh. Okay.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
crazy. And I have like all the food listed, and then I have these numbers next to them. And when I look at it today, obviously I'm a nutrition coach, so like I kind of understand what they mean, but Weight Watchers does not teach you how certain food makes you feel or how
Mhm.
certain food, what certain food does for you, how it impacts your body, you know? And back when Weight Watchers was first a thing, it was like you could literally eat like 3 bags of Doritos and you hit your points for the day. So you were good. You could still lose weight, but you felt horrible at the end of the day, you know?
Right.
And again, same thing with like the pretty little containers. It's like that's wonderful, but what is this teaching me? And how is this little pretty container good for my body and good for your body? Because no two people are, exactly the same inside and out. We all need something different. So I think one of the things that I find with Weight Watchers is it doesn't give you like the education that you really need. It is a good plan. It can help you lose weight for sure because you're in a calorie deficit. Anytime you're in a
Mm.
calorie deficit, you can drop weight. Are you dropping the weight that you want to drop? Like, is it fat or is it muscle that you're losing? I,
Sure.
I, I don't think anyone would be okay with like, hey, would it be okay with you if you lost 10 to 20 pounds in your muscle? I don't think people would like that. What most people are after is fat loss.
Sure.
And what you need to understand is like certain macros help you get to those specific physical goals.
Okay, interesting. So tell the listeners a little bit about macros. Like what is that term if no one's ever heard of it before? I certainly have because I'm in the fitness world, but this might be new for people out there.
Sure. Yeah, macros stands for macronutrients. So they are the big nutrients that our body needs. You need them for survival, and they are protein, carbs, and fats.
Okay.
If you cut one of these things out in your diet, your body is going to feel it. You can't, you need them. You need them for brain function, you need them for hormone stabilization, you need them for energy, of course,
Yeah.
and those three macronutrients make up the calories that you're eating. So people focus on the calories, but they don't realize that calories come from protein, carbs, and fat. And whether you know it or not, every single person who is listening to this eats macros.
Of course.
It's not like a new thing,
Yeah.
you don't have to change anything. It's not a special bar or something like that. You're eating it every single day.
So how do you help someone decide like the right amount for that? Because you mentioned like a 1,200 calorie diet, which I certainly was. I don't even. I don't want to say I was a victim of because it was my choice when I was doing bodybuilding and I was literally surviving on a deficit, and then of course went into adrenal fatigue and crushed everything later in life
Yeah.
that I then had to repair because my body was in complete shutdown mode and I just had no metabolism. So what, most women think that 1,200 calories a day is sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me about the decision behind like the macronutrients that you should have or like the calories to eat per day.
I think it honestly depends. I think that people ask me these kinds of questions all the time, and it depends on your goals. It depends on your lifestyle. It depends on your body. Things that I take into account when I work with people is their height, their weight, of course, their lifestyle, how many steps they're getting in. And one of the very first things that we always do together is we bring awareness to their current habits. Like,
Mm.
what are they currently doing? When I first started tracking, I was eating 30 to maybe 50 grams of protein a day. And I didn't realize how crazy that was until I am at double that now, you know? And
Yeah.
I think that a lot of nutrition coaches will also tell you like blanket statements, like 1 gram of protein per body weight. And
Mm.
that's fine. You sure, but I still don't believe that like addresses you and your lifestyle and what you want and what's sustainable to you. So, for example, if you are only eating 30 grams of protein every day, yes, that needs to be increased. But am I going to make you eat 130 grams of protein right out the get go? No, that's
Right.
not sustainable. So, we kind of, like I said, look at what your current habits are, and then we make tweaks and adjustments based on your goals and your lifestyle.
I love it. What do you say to people who start to like obsess about not getting their calories in or not getting their macros in per day? Because I often see that being a measurement of success or failure.
Mhm.
So, how do you work with women who are just, so obsessed about it and really stress about their nutrients?
Yeah, that sounds like perfectionism at its finest right there.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about it because we
Yeah,
know we know women have it.
yes, absolutely. Because that's what we're conditioned to think. Like, if you don't hit this calorie goal, you don't hit these macros, you're not going to get what you want.
Yes.
But you can break that cycle and prove to yourself otherwise. You know, you can see, I don't think there has been maybe 2 week streak, maybe even 1 week where I have hit my macros perfectly, every single one of them, and my calories perfectly, and like didn't see the results that I wanted. Perfection is not required. There is no one on this planet who is perfect.
Mm.
And that sort of thinking it's self-destructive, honestly. It holds you back. It holds you back from what you want. You kind of have to go from a place of perfectionism, which is a shield. It's a shield to keep you safe, to a place of striving to be a little bit more healthy. How can you improve? What's
Mm.
one thing that you can do that feels super light, super easy that you weren't doing before that you can like count as a win? You know, it's like it's a mental shift. You know, we
Yeah. I
come.
mean, and it's a hard one to break people out of because it is this idea or concept that's rooted in fear, right?
Mhm,
If I don't lose the weight, then I essentially won't be loved and won't be
mhm,
accepted.
mhm, mhm,
And they place so much value on getting it right because of the unconscious, like unresolved fear that really lives in their body from all the things that we've been talking about.
mhm. And to that, I would say, what proof do you have of that? You know, if there is truly someone out there who is not going to love you because you haven't lost the weight, then guess what? You're leveling up and you are going to a whole new energy and you're going to find people who meet you there,
That's
you
right.
know?
Yeah, talk about that. What do you mean by going to a whole new energy?
Sure. I was actually working with someone who, when we first started together, she was in a relationship and she seemed pretty happy. But then throughout the time that we were working together, she would say things like, well, my boyfriend would rather go play video games than hang out with me, or my boyfriend and I got into a fight, et cetera, et cetera. And literally, almost by the time we stopped working together, they had broken up
Mm,
because she realized that she was worth more than what she was settling for.
I love that.
So when you are treating yourself right, when you have compassion for yourself, when your confidence goes up, the people who are going to stay in your life are the people who are going to meet you where you're at, you know? And unfortunately, her boyfriend at the time could not meet her where she was at her new level anymore. So he got off the trolley, I like to say, you know? But now she's in a relationship. She just messaged me the other day and said, I am so happy that I did not settle. If I
Mm,
did not get the confidence that I got like through the program with you, with my nutrition, which all of those things leveling up, I would not be in this safe, nurturing, loving environment that I am in right now. So it's just, yeah, it's a higher energy. It feels good. It's positive. It's the best place to be.
Because I think it comes with the belief and the trust in yourself, right? That you are worthy, that you are good enough, no matter what your weight is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a hard thing for women to comprehend because we are so indoctrinated culturally to, to make it about that, to make it about
Yeah.
our appearance, to make it about, what body type we have and all of that. So I love the work that you're doing. And I know that you're focusing a lot on like busy moms. So that is one area where I feel we can all, we all need help with. Like we are constantly taking care of everybody else. We're constantly doing all of these things to manage the household, to manage school stuff, to manage dinners, like all the things that we have on our plates. And not saying that dads don't have the busyness too, but I think when it comes to moms, we tend to put what we need on the back burner because adding another thing to our plate can just be too overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you say to moms out there who are like, I don't want to track. Like I don't have the time, I don't have the energy. Like what tips or tools do you say to them to get them on board or to get them motivated to really start to take this, I don't want to say
Yeah.
seriously, but to commit to themselves when it comes to their nutrition?
Yeah, for sure. I think that a lot of people think, oh, I want to fit into my jeans again. I want to wear a certain outfit. I want to like walk in the room and feel more confident. I want a certain size waist. But one of the things that I help people uncover is their true driving force, the
Mm,
real reason for why they want to fit into the jeans. They want to feel confident when walking into a room. And I always ask them, like, what are those things going to give you?
mm,
Let's say you wake up one morning and you fit into those jeans. Okay, what does that do for you? And ultimately, a lot of times it has to do with feeling free.
mm,
You want to feel free. You want the shackles, the food shackles, the diet shackles to be removed. You know, you want to walk into a room and feel light and airy.
mm,
I think it all just comes down to freedom. So, people who are kind of resistant to tracking or just like taking care of themselves in general, I think maybe they haven't really looked deep within to say like what that could possibly give them, because that is going to be the motivator. Anytime you start a program, you're like, yes, let's do this. This is amazing. That fizzles out with anything that you do.
sure.
So you have to find like the root cause, what's actually going to push you forward.
I love it. And I'm hearing one of my teachers in my head saying, sooner or later, health is going to be your number one problem. And, why wait to start taking it seriously or to be more diligent about the food that you're putting into your body?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think also going back to your point of like busy moms, it's like you're taking care of your kids in the moment. You are feeding them, you are packing their bags for school, you are doing the homework, you are driving them to soccer. You in the moment, yes, you're doing those things. But you know what your kids really want? Your kids want you around for a long
Mm,
time. And they want you to go to their wedding and they want you to watch their kids when they grow up, you know? And they want you to be able to climb the stairs and it just like those sort of things that people are just kind of so stuck in the moment that they don't prioritize the things that are going to compound over time. They don't
mm.
want to make, honestly, the investment in themselves.
It's so true. And I'm just like thinking of a couple of people in my head right now. They're like, well, I only eat one meal a day. I'm just not hungry. I don't do breakfast. Why is that not the way?
I think that people have tried so many diets, they have lost their hunger cues.
Mm,
And it is not like healthy to only have one meal a day. That's like keeping your tank on empty. You know, when the E comes up and it's like, I still got 50 miles left to go, but I am not going to fill up my tank. I don't need to. I can keep going. You know, that's like where you're living. And you don't want to do that. You want to fill up your tank. It's like on the flip side, people don't understand why they have to have 4 cups of coffee to get through the day, or they're short tempered after work, or they actually can't sleep at night. And it all has to go back to the fact that you haven't fueled yourself properly. One of the things that I work on is helping people spark some hunger cues. I had someone who went from like 600 calories to double that. She didn't gain a single pound, but after work, she was able to go for bike rides with her husband.
Mm.
Like, you have a more fulfilling life. I think people are afraid. It's unknown to them.
Because they have no idea what it feels like to actually feel good in their body with sustainable energy.
Right. I
Yeah,
think people are afraid to give it a try too.
that makes so much sense. What about the going out to eat factor that we all struggle with, right? As busy moms, it's like, I don't have time to cook tonight. I'm just going to order takeout. Like that is a classic thing. And I'm, at the point, luckily, where my body and my metabolism are on check. But a lot of people don't have that luxury or they haven't dialed it in yet. So, what is like, how do you work in macros with like takeout or, the things that we, have to do sometimes in our busy lives where we can't manage it all?
Sure. I think this also goes back to perfectionism,
Mm.
where you feel like either you're going to go out to eat all the time and it doesn't matter. I'm going to eat whatever I want because I don't really know what to do about this, or like I'm never going to go out to eat. And it's something important with perfectionism is trying to learn to live in the gray.
Mm.
And you can pretty much any restaurant these days, you can look up like nutritional values of things if you wanted to. I think that you can always make a decision that will help you feel empowered. One of the things that I tell people is before you make that decision in your mind, just say to yourself, I'm free to make any decision that I want.
Mm.
And most oftentimes, when you kind of slow down, you can make a decision that actually aligns with the goal that you want. And that being said, like it does not have to be perfect. You can use your hand just to give you portion sizes. Like your palm is the portion of protein that you should be eating. This is like a cup, like your cupped hand, right? And your thumb could be the fats. If you can choose things that are just a single macronutrient, like just the chicken or just the rice or whatever it is, instead of coming up with some sort of casserole, just try and keep things simple. You
Sure.
absolutely can go out to eat and reach your nutrition goals. That's part of life. You got to find the balance.
I love that, right? It's like, what do you want? Like, what do you desire instead of this deficit around, what can I have? Or, depriving yourself of something. Because when we do that, it often leads to like a binge or feeling out of control. So talk a little bit about this concept of like desire or like how do you use that mindset to teach people to make the choices with food?
Sure. You can have it all. Your food does not have moral value.
Got it.
There's not like a slice of pizza walking down the street saying like, "Hey, how are you?" or like grimacing at you. Food is not, like I said, has no moral value. There are foods that are effective and there are foods that are enjoyable. And if when you can find like the gray area of that, that's where you're going to feel really nourished in your mind, in your body, in your spirit, physically. Like all of those things can come together when you find that appropriate balance for yourself. And that is truly why I love macros,
Mm.
because when you start tracking, you bring awareness to what you're eating
Mm.
and you can see, like, oh, an apple while yes, it does have micronutrients and things like that, it also has the same amount of carbs as a pack of Starburst, you know? And I totally understand that like Starburst has like the sugars and things like that in it, but it's not morally better. You know,
Yeah.
on Halloween, if you love Starburst, maybe you want to trade in your apple that day for your Starburst. Should you do that every day? Maybe not. But like you get to decide. You get to
Sure.
have the power to say what's going to meet my needs or not. And then the other thing that you said was about restriction. How many people are restricting themselves from Monday to maybe lunch on Friday, and then they swing the other way? And you're on this constant swing, this pendulum going back and forth, back and forth. When you restrict, the only natural thing to do, this is science, is swing all the way to the other side. And you have to like kind of find that middle ground and what that looks like for you.
I love that you brought that up because that used to literally be my life for many years. And then it would be this mindset of like, oh, I let it go all weekend and then I got to like scramble to get it together on Monday. But then I think that, well, I know personally and professionally that the worst thing about all of that was the shame dump that you have. And this idea of, I can't get it all together. I have no control. Like the things we tell ourselves is the toxin more than the food in some cases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. It's the story that you are telling yourself that is no longer serving you. And you have to be courageous enough to let that story go and find the truth where it actually lies. You know, you are not a bad person if you indulged over the weekend. Again, it means nothing about you. You don't have to restrict yourself the next day on Monday. You don't have to try and get it together. In order to break that cycle, you have to think about like, if nothing changes, nothing is going to change, you know? So, what could you do differently throughout the week that might allow you for different results over the weekend?
Right.
And a lot of times that is including something that you truly, truly enjoy from Monday to Friday. You know, having the ice cream on Tuesday night actually might be better for you mentally than anything else because
Sure.
then on the weekend, it has no power over you
Right.
anymore.
I love that, right? Because it is the power that you give it. And since we're the divine free will creators of our lives and whatever we believe about it is what is coming into existence, then we get to decide how I feel about having the ice cream on a Tuesday, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's you're the only one that put those constraints on you that you can't have it. So, and then my work or where I come in is like, why are you putting those restrictions on yourself? And where does that belief come from? And what are you making that mean about yourself? And you have the power and the ability to change it because you're the conscious creator,
Right.
right? It is the energy that you give it and the belief that you give it that makes it so. So let's
Mm-hmm.
work on the mindset that you have around this concept of good or bad or right or wrong when it comes to what you're consuming.
Yeah. I also think that like resistance, anytime you are resistant to anything, it is just like what you said, it's judgment to what is. If
Yes.
you're resistant to stepping on the scale, it's because you're judging what's on the scale. If you're resistant to having the ice cream on Tuesday night, because I'm sure there are people who are probably listening that are like, no, I can't do that. It's coming up with some sort of emotion, and there is judgment there for sure.
Well, yeah, because our outer world will always create scenarios to show us where we're not free. And
Mm-hmm.
I love the concept that you bring in is like, this is about freedom. This isn't about control.
Right. Instead of white knuckling it through your whole life, holding on to that sand. Like what happens when you hold on to sand? You squeeze it real tight. It's like pouring out of your fingers. It's a disaster. But if you just like cup the sand up and you're holding it in the palm of your hand, it's sitting there. And that's kind of what I like to help people find.
Yeah, absolutely. What we grip onto so tightly, we just attract more of.
Yeah. I also think that that's a form of self sabotage too, having those thoughts.
Sure.
I don't know. Have you ever read the book, The Big Leap by
No.
Gay Hendricks? Okay, so The Big Leap, it talks about your upper limit, which is basically your thermostat for happiness. And when you
Mm.
reach this upper limit, you do something or think of something to deflate yourself, to bring yourself back down. So if people have ever lost the weight that they wanted to lose, and then the next day they're like, oh, I can have extra cake or I can have extra calories because I lost the weight, you're you're getting to that upper limit and then you're deflating yourself back down. And you want to find a space where you can kind of like push through, raise the ceiling up, you know?
Oh, it's so true. Oh my gosh. So what's the answer? How do you push through it?
Slowly, slow acclimation. Like I said, getting really curious about what you're saying. And 80% of it is
Mm.
noticing that it's coming up. I have a family, this goes for everything. I have a family vacation coming up and I'm very excited about it. I haven't been away with my family in a long time. And it was like instantly I started thinking, well, what if it rains?
Mm.
Well, what if someone gets sick? And instead of just allowing myself to be excited, those things, sure, they might happen, but it's taking away from like the happiness that I can feel right now in being excited for it. So if you notice that you start to binge like the next day after losing weight, or let's say you walked 15,000 steps one day, so you sit on the couch the next day, like once you notice it, you're like, oh, ooh, I got to change this. What could I do differently this time? How can I improve this habit?
It almost sounds like what you're saying, and I can certainly relate to and agree with, is that your nervous system only has a certain tolerance for the amount of happiness and joy you'll allow in your life.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You know,
It's like we've been trained in some way to only believe that a certain amount of happiness is meant for us, and we have
Mhm.
adopted that into like our being, in our cells almost.
Oh, it's so true. And it brings me back to, we're all abundant beings, but we've been trained to live in fear, scarcity, and lack. And
Yeah.
it sounds like that's what the self-sabotaging part does, is it keeps us in that lower vibrational frequency of what is familiar to us,
Mm-hmm.
instead of, like the book probably says, taking the leap into, your new reality, your new sense of being, your true frequency, which is love, abundance, joy, fulfillment, and all the things that are automatically available to us when we choose to step into that and
Absolutely.
allow that. I think it's allowing that
Mm-hmm.
to be the new the
Yes.
new, the new truth.
I think that also sometimes for people, it might be a situation where you have to like fake it till you make it, you know?
Sure.
You have to like be the person who you think that you want to be. How would that person show up? What thoughts would that person have? And then that's going to cause your action. So it's like be, do, have. You
Yes.
got it, you know? And one of the things that the book also talks about is saying a simple affirmation to yourself. You're reprogramming your brain. I expand in love, success, and abundance every day as I inspire other people to do the same thing. That simple phrase, programming that in your brain, is like it's a new frequency that your body takes on.
It's so true. It's I actually just listened to a reel this morning of saying I'm allowed to receive abundance, right? I'm allowed to receive money. I'm allowed to receive love. I think as women, we have such a difficult time like being in the receptive energy and
Mm-hmm.
not in the doing and performing and striving energy. We've been trained to be so in our masculine that I
Mm-hmm.
think what we're talking about really is just allowing yourself to receive the joy and the love and the abundance that is surrounding you at all of the time. And the food, in my opinion, is only a reflection of where you don't feel that about yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's like if you're not feeling good in your body, that's going to show that you're not like fueling yourself in the right way. A lot of people feel out of control. So the way that they can overcompensate for that is giving, is showing up for other people, is doing all of the things because on paper that looks really good,
Yeah.
but they're struggling inside.
Absolutely. And I think we're so prone to that as women, to be the one that overgives or overcompensates and really, pushes ourselves to make other people happy. But all we're doing is creating this feeling of disempowerment inside of ourselves
Mm-hmm.
because we're not filling
Yeah,
our own cup. It's coming from an empty place. It's coming, the reserves aren't full, if you want to say it that way.
right. It's a definitely a vicious cycle for sure.
And then we look to other things outside of us to make us happy, like the ice cream or the chocolate or wine or whatever it is. We're looking for the feeling state that it gives us, not necessarily the substance itself.
Sure, it's emotional eating. People do that all the time. They're bored. They're they are frustrated. They are anxious. And a lot of times that is the quick and easy fix, but it's not the long lasting fix that they need. And going back to that curiosity, it's like if you could just take one big breath before you reach for the sleeve of Oreos, before you reach for the pint of ice cream, and think like, what is actually going on around me? What am I saying to myself? How am I feeling? Address the emotion. And once you can label and address the emotion, like the hunger isn't really going to be there anymore. That's the root cause.
I love it. I tell people that all the time. It's like, if you can identify the feeling before you eat the food, you may
Mm-hmm.
still want to eat the food, but you're going to go at it with a new energy because you're
Yeah.
becoming aware, right? You're making the unconscious conscious and you're being curious about, isn't it interesting that I just had a thought to go into my cupboard right now or open my
Mm-hmm.
fridge? Like it's these automatic habits, like you're talking about, that just become so unconscious. And I love that you're teaching people the emotional work behind that because really that's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, how wonderful would it be if you made an empowered decision to eat the Oreos or the ice cream or the chips or whatever it happens to be? How much better would they taste, honestly? How much better would that experience be if you were able to say, I am free to make this decision. And yes, I want to eat this right now.
And it
And you
means
do it
nothing
mindfully.
about me. It means
Absolutely
nothing.
nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nope.
Oh,
Absolutely nothing.
that's so good. I love it. So we certainly talked about all kinds of things, and I'm just curious, what is what is a word of wisdom or advice to women out there who, really struggle with that controlling food? Like, what do you want them to know? And what's one thing that you can share with them that they can take with them today?
Sure. I think it's that food, like I said, has no moral value over you. And if you can develop a mindset of curiosity, then you can break the cycle of food controlling you
Mm,
to you in control over your thoughts and actually eventually trusting yourself. Like the trust is there, it's available for you. You just have to break the cycle of the thoughts that you're having and
I
get
love it.
curious.
I love that because it is about inner trust, right? Do I trust myself to make an empowered decision about what is best for me? And do I trust myself to lead my life in a way that is loving and kind to myself, no matter what I'm putting in my body?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think once you can get to that place of trust, you will find that freedom that you're looking for.
Yeah. And then the weight organically comes off because we
Yeah,
have we have a we have a body, we have a spirit, we have a mind that wants us to be in homeostasis and wants us to be healthy.
absolutely. It's like you get a mental six pack first.
Ah, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. So let's talk about your program before we close. I know that you have this amazing 6-month program. So tell the listeners how to find you, what it's about if they feel really inspired to work with you and to really dive into their health today?
Sure. My program is called Master Your Mind and Body. It is a 6 month program, like you said, and we go through 4 phases. I call it the calm method. First phase is really about getting curious about what you're doing today. What are your habits? What's your water intake? What's your nutrition like, etc. And then you take action with my help. I help adjust those nutrients, your goals. We break it down, make it super simple, 1 week at a time. We're setting SMART goals. And then eventually I teach you how to do that for yourself so that you can live on and become more empowered. So, how do I maybe not track all of my food? How do I look at visual portion sizes? How do I maintain the progress that I've made? And eventually get to a place where you have mastered it. So, at the end of the 6 months, you have really gone from out of control in control, kind of like a sense of control, to finally trusting yourself through the process. And I do that using a tool of macro counting. You can find me on Instagram on KB Nutrition Coach. I post a lot of like helpful mom tips for tracking macros, overcoming mindset. I show you my day to day. I don't have like a perfect white granite kitchen or any of those things. I'm hoping that my life can resonate with other working, busy moms like me.
I love that. And I found on your Instagram, you call it, what is it? Nap? What do you
Oh, nap chats.
Nap chats. Yes. Oh my God.
Nap
I
chats. Yes.
love it. And I just love the tools and like the very, very simple tips that you put on there. So I absolutely encourage everybody to follow you, to find you, your energy and just your joy of how to teach people how to live a life of freedom and health is inspiring. And I just thank you for coming on the show and really sharing your expertise and wisdom with us all.
Thank
And the
you
work
so
that you're
much.
doing in the world. Like it's so empowering to meet another woman who really wants to help women be free and to really just love and accept all of themselves no matter what they weigh.
Yeah, I think we can make the world a better place, and that starts with us. So that's what I'm here to help people do. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Thanks for saying yes.
Of course.
Thanks for staying to the end of the episode, everybody. I hope that you found a ton of value out of my interview with Katie. As you can see, she is so passionate about helping us as women find a better way as busy moms to not only take care of our health, but to build ourselves up in a way that we feel good about the food that we eat and what we put into our body. If you struggle with this, go to her website, check out her 6 month program, and see how she can help you get the results that you want without all of the restriction and judgment and perfection and shame. She will work with you to get the results that your body is asking for. There's always a way, and I encourage you to check out Katie and her fitness and nutrition program because there just may be something there that you didn't know that you need.